Honorable.
Hello?
How are you, sir?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Good. Ivan Okuda here.
Yes, Ivan. It's okay.
I loved your show yesterday. You know why?
Why?
You, I think unintentionally led Mwenda into not just exposing himself.
On the morning of Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, users of the microblogging site X, formerly Twitter, woke up to a leaked private telephone conversation between journalist turned lawyer Ivan Okuda and the Chira municipality MP Ibrahim Semujunganda, circulating online like a wildfire.
My trouble with Andrew is for him to continue parading himself like an independent journalist.
In the roughly 6 minutes and 52-second conversation, the duo engaged in banter, including the ongoing treason case of opposition doyen and full-time presidential aspirant Dr. Kizza Besigye. Dr. Besigye and his AD, Obed Lutale, were kidnapped by security agencies from Nairobi in November 2024, sneaked into Uganda, briefly detained incommunicado, and slapped with terrorism charges before the March-India-based General Court-Martial. Their trial is ongoing at the High Court's Criminal Division following the transfer of their criminal files from the military court. Fast forward to the morning of February 25th, 2025, none other than Colonel Chris Magezi, the acting spokesperson of the Uganda People's Defense Forces, posted on his X account the Okuda Nganda phone recording with the caption, "The talkative Ivan Okuda discusses Andrew Mwenda and Besigye's treason case with Honorable Semujo Nganda."
Yes.
Yet he has become part of the inner circle planning all the havoc.
Yes.
You see, and this is between me and you. One time he told me in the last election, Museveni had trouble in Kampala that him and his brother Kayanja Muhanga and Leto Cage, they are the ones who took over Kampala, raised the money through Mukwano and everybody, all the traders, and then started kidnapping people.
The leaked telephone conversation, likely the handwork of phone tapping by the state apparatus, was shared on X via SoundCloud, one of the largest music streaming services in the world. Then, followed by another post in a question form. So how do we describe a person like Okuda in real life? A tattletale? Until 2018, Mr. Okuda was a journalist at the Daily Monitor newspaper. Mr. Nganda is a well-known politician representing Chira municipality since 2011. 2 days earlier, on February 23rd, Colonel Magezi had leaked another telephone conversation between Mr. Okuda and the Kampala Lord Mayor, Elias Lukwago. The duo were discussing the Besigye trial. The February 25th post garnered more than 300 comments on X, with many wondering what purpose releasing such a private telephone conversation served, particularly in contravention of Article 27 of the 1995 Constitution that guarantees the right to privacy for individuals.
The same way you are stopped from holding a rally is the same way they are going to stop you from using either social media or any other platform to communicate and coordinate. They will tell you that we are actually listening to you. We've gone to meetings here in Katonga. Basically, because of his background, the first thing you do is to surrender your phones. And then take them far away, because they said even if you put them in a container and put them near, they will be able to pick the signals.
If the intention of leaking the Okuda Lukwago and the Okuda Nganda private conversations had not been served, it did not take long to release another.
Patrick.
Hey, what are you now?
I'm in the US.
You went in exile?
No.
12 days later, Colonel Magezi, still via his X account, dropped a recorded telephone conversation between journalist and lawyer Gawaya Tegule and pollster Patrick Wakida, who crossed the ruling NRM recently to clinch the party flag for the Kaweri County parliamentary seat.
I tried to call you sometime, Nenga. You are up and down.
I've been up and down. Easily in Charo. Museveni was in the village.
The back-to-back telephone audio leak reinforced the long-held view of phone tapping by the security apparatus. However, this phone tapping is only legal and justified for national security and serious crime investigations under the Interception of Communications Act 2010, provided it's authorized by a High Court judge warrant. The phone tapping legislation, first tabled in Parliament in 2009, was fast-tracked in the immediate aftermath of the 2010 twin terrorist bombing at Chadondo Rugby Grounds and the Ethiopian village bar and restaurant, in which at least 70 people were killed. Against pushback from activists and lawyers, the government reasoned that the terrorist attacks could have been prevented had the law been in place. Under the Computer Misuse Amendment Act of 2022, unauthorized private recording of phone calls is illegal. Alas.
I always was aware that my calls are recorded, but I never thought that it would serve any purpose to have them in the public space. So that was, at a personal level, that was very disconcerting, though not surprising in the sense that I knew they were I was being basically my phones were tapped. That one I had been warned already. So, but that one I think it was a step too far. It is not unusual for surveillance to be made on people. I think the question should always be, how is this surveillance used who is the end user? What purpose is it serving?
Even today, as Kyagulanyi goes to address rallies, they are there taking record of who is attending, who is his security detail, who moves with him, who does what. And then you'll see drones picking them one by one. I remember when we were discussing in Parliament the Interception of Communication Bill brought by Mama Mbabazi, that time was Minister for Defense. The biggest fear was that while we are all interested in security as a common good, these fellows are using security for politics.
When you have a 40-year-old regime, they get into a state of paranoia. They fear even their shadows because they've messed up the country so bad. The country is angry and hungry. And inevitably, they'll be paranoid because they know they're on the wrong course. And so because they are paranoid, they'll be seeking out what are these opposition people planning, the phone conversations they have, what are they discussing, maybe some journalists, maybe some people who might be giving information and that kind of thing. So they invest heavily on that. Yeah, even fake intelligence, because many times they have got fake intelligence, but it's because they feed off of it.
Following the enactment of the Interception of Communications Act in 2010, it emerged that the government was looking around for 205 billion Uganda shillings to purchase equipment and establish systems for the interception of communications. However, since 2010, the surveillance ecosystem in Uganda has been growing, albeit unsophisticated, targeting mainly opposition politicians, civil society actors, journalists, and anyone deemed to be a threat, leaving many to wonder if the goal is for national security or regime survival.
They don't need to increase the money they spend on education for them to keep power. They don't need to build hospitals and improve our infrastructure for them to keep power. They're thinking, no, all I need is to keep a tight grip on these opposition folks, trail them, what are they planning, stifle it, and so on. We'll keep power. People can wallow in poverty. We don't care. So that's why things are that way.
I think in this case, what we're seeing is not national security being put at the forefront. I think we're looking at regime continuity. And I think that is where we get issues, because any nation is going to do surveillance on people in the interest of security and other concerns, or sometimes prevention of crime. But it becomes an abuse of prerogative when the state, when the government is using state apparatus just for the sake of this continuity, because it means public interest is no longer the issue. We're saying basically private interest.
You saw people in 7 t-shirts here beating people and snatching and stealing mobile money and phones. Those fellows are known. That day we are lucky that someone was able to record them using a phone. But they do that every day. But because they work with security, they will never move hard on them. So surveillance happens in all countries, but for common purpose, for common good. Here, the first thing, like most of the government functions, is for politics. Who has Semuju visited? Who is talking to who has brought in which money? Who is moving with you? Who is coordinating? So the politics here, I think, dominates the public function.
We have a lot of things to monitor: terrorism, regional threats. We have a lot of things to monitor, not individuals who are doing their work genuinely. You see, again, it's the other narrative that you want to promote: a scared threat. I mean, scared state monitoring everyone. No, we don't.
An October 2015 report titled "For God and My President, State Surveillance" by the London-based Privacy International, which advocates for the right to privacy, documented that in the aftermath of the 2011 presidential elections that pitted President Museveni against Dr. Kizza Besigye, the Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence, which has since rebranded to Defense Intelligence and Security, and Uganda Police, acting on presidential orders, used an intrusion malware, short for malicious software, to infect the communication devices of key opposition leaders, media, and establishment insiders. The secret operation was codenamed Fungua Macho, Open Your Eyes in Swahili, according to documents acquired by Privacy International. The tool chosen as the backbone of the operation, Thin Fisher, is intrusion malware at the time manufactured by the Gamma Group of companies headquartered in the UK. Once infected, a person's computer or phone can be remotely monitored in real time. Activities on the device become visible, passwords, files, microphones, and cameras can be viewed and manipulated without the target's knowledge. Over a period of 2011 to 2013, at least 73 people were involved in the operation targeting key opposition leaders, media, and establishment insiders. According to Plan International, operatives bribed people close to their targets to get access to personal phones and computers on which they installed the malware, according to a confidential intelligence brief prepared for President Museveni. CMI officials also requested more funds to expand the operation and bribe more insiders. Obtaining personal information to use as blackmail was an explicit goal of the operation, according to secret government documents.
Privacy is key. But all those guardrails fall when you have a regime which all it's focused on is keeping power. We saw the BBC documentary of this criminal who has access to NIRA records of the citizenry in a manner so wanton that so he'll contact whoever he wants and so on. Why? Because that's not important to the state. What's important is curtailing these opposition fellows when they're going out to the public and, let's curtail them. Let's focus our energies there. These other things do not matter. So it's a classic case of breakdown of literally everything.
I think the security sector sometimes will take about 8-7 trillion out of the 72 trillion budget. I think there was a year, either last or the other year, when classified expenditure was 5 trillion. And then the rest are salaries. So are you going to stop salaries? Because they mask the money. Come here and say, this is classified equipment, this is classified expenditure. Even when you are scrutinizing, say, contracts, cameras and so on and so forth, they don't want to go into details. They will tell you this is a security matter and then blackmail everybody.
The army, however, defends that surveillance is specifically for national security, like all governments elsewhere do.
You see, organized intelligence doesn't have to be seen that it's there. No. And above all, we have a duty to you. We have a responsibility to the citizens to keep them secure. So how do you do it? By revelations from God? So that's why you are free. By the way, have you ever asked yourselves why there is no military roadblock anywhere in this country? Do you see any?
In September 2018, Citizen Lab, an interdisciplinary research unit of the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy and the University of Toronto in Canada, in a report titled Hide and Seek, lifted the lead on the deployment of Pegasus spyware developed by the Israeli cyber arms company NSO Group. The spyware is designed to be covertly and remotely installed on mobile phones running iOS or Android operating systems and can record your calls, copy your messages, and secretly film users. Uganda was among the 45 countries, according to Citizen Lab, scanned between August 2016 and August 2018 and were found to be using NSO Group's Pegasus spyware. Other African countries included Rwanda, South Africa, Togo, Algeria, and Zambia. The earliest version of Pegasus discovered, which was captured by researchers in 2016, infected phones through what is called spear phishing, text messages or emails that trick a target into clicking on a malicious link. But in the classic case of the hunter becoming the hunted, the US-based organized crime and corruption reporting project that fosters investigative journalism revealed in July 2021 that the Kigali regime had used the Pegasus spyware to spy on top Ugandan officials, including the then Chief of Defense Forces General David Muhoozi, veteran journalist Andrew Mwenda, and Freddie Nyazi Sentamu, brother to former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi. This was the height of the diplomatic fallout between Uganda and Rwanda between 2018 and mid-2022, which goes to show how surveillance can be misused, especially when in paranoid hands. Phone tapping and targeting mobile phones of those deemed threats with malware are part of the growing surveillance and spying repertoire. In the aftermath of the assassination of Arua Municipality MP Ibrahim Abiriga in June 2018, President Museveni, in the address to Parliament, spelled out mounting tracking beacons on all borders and vehicles and deployment of closed-circuit television (CCTV) cameras around Kampala and all national highways, particularly to fight high-profile criminality. Phase 1 of the CCTV project in 2019, undertaken by the Chinese telecommunications firm Huawei, covered Kampala Metropolitan Policing Area, catering for 18 divisions with 3,233 cameras installed, and Phase 2, covering all municipalities, highways, major towns and all borders, while Phase 3 commenced in May last year, covering other parts of the country. According to the police's annual crime report since 2020, the CCTV cameras have been essential policing tools that often during the political seasons particularly used to capture protesters. In the aftermath of the deadly November 2020 protests that broke out following the arrest of presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, President Museveni, in his address on the security situation in the country on November 28, 2020, called for such video of protesters destroying property, burning tires on roads and looting, and undressing women dressed in the yellow ruling NRM t-shirts to be played. But that was not the full picture. CCTV footage of machine gun-toting security personnel in civilian attire shooting indiscriminately at buildings and civilians have never been made open. During the 2021 and 2026 general election campaigns, security organs relied on the CCTV videos captured across several routes to single out Kyagulanyi diehard supporters, some of who were arrested. Others were kidnapped and disappeared. But as families search for their missing loved ones, police, which mans the CCTV infrastructure and control room in Naguru, is conspicuously quiet. One possible interpretation of this laissez-faire use of surveillance is that it's for regime security.
Once you do abnormal things, then you attract interest. But watching everybody, I've told you, it's a lot of money. And I don't think your country has that money. No. And you have no reason to watch everyone. Humanist activists, what's wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with them. Because after all, others use that brand to get foreign funding. We know it.
Amid the crackdown on the National Unity Platform Party and its political mobilization activities in early 2025, at the behest of the Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, pan-tilt zoom cameras known for remote movement control offering 360-degree horizontal panning and vertical tilting were installed right in front of the party offices at Kavule.
First of all, these are
surveillance cameras put there to monitor whatever we're doing, which is illegal, because there's no reason why really they should be having these. And unfortunately, I don't know, or we don't know which telecom company this is that even allowed them to place them on their mast. I think it would be unfortunate for them to do that. So you can see these cameras. If you go to our president's home, you'll see those cameras on each road that leads to his home. We are not criminals, we're just a political party.
While on the whole, Uganda is not among the heaviest CCTV surveillance in the world, according to Compritech, a UK-based pro-consumer website providing information on cybersecurity and privacy online, some 3,293 public cameras are in place in Uganda per 1,000 people. Compritech researchers collated a number of data resources and reports, including government reports, police websites and news articles, to get some idea of the number of CCTV cameras in use in 150 major cities across the globe. In July 2021, the Ugandan government signed a memorandum of understanding with the Phantom Russian company, joint stock company Global Security Limited, for mounting digital tracking beacons embedded in the number plates of all vehicles and motorcycles. Legal Brains Trust, a non-profit that champions the rule of law, filed a suit in the High Court challenging the illegality of mounting GPS trackers on private vehicles in the absence of safeguards for protecting the privacy and data belonging to people with no apparent connection to criminality or terrorism. The case was tossed out in 2023. Frida Nalumasi, the research and advocacy lead at Unwanted Witness, which advocates for digital rights, argued that the surveillance system in the country targets both the state and non-state actors, particularly to suppress dissent.
And then there are no safeguards in which to ensure that those who are undertaking the surveillance, acts of surveillance, do it in a manner that they are not abusive at the end of the day. So we are in a situation where our laws on surveillance are very opaque. They are vague.
Drawing on the report titled Surveillance, Spyware, an Impediment to Civil Society, Human Rights Defenders and Journalists in East and Southern Africa, released in June last year by the NGO, Nalumasi said there is need for reform surveillance laws to align with human rights standards and international obligations by clearly defining practices, requiring court warrants, limiting scope and abuse of systems.
What happens at the end of the day when someone suffers in the process, someone suffers breaches in the process? The remedies are not adequate because unfortunately most of the people who find themselves susceptible or vulnerable to surveillance or victims of surveillance are either people that have been specifically targeted.
According to the report, surveillance spyware, an impediment to civil society, human rights defenders and journalists in East and Southern Africa, which draws parallels with Rwanda, Kenya and Ethiopia, Uganda's surveillance ecosystem, combining expansive technological infrastructure with targeted spyware, has significantly reshaped civic space, privacy and political freedoms. The surveillance environment in Uganda has had profound and far-reaching implications for fundamental rights and freedoms, particularly impacting human rights defenders, journalists and CSOs. The growing fear of state infiltration has eroded trust, discouraged collective organizing and stifled peaceful protests, the report details.
The government is more interested in dealing with politics than in securing citizens and securing their property. So that's why surveillance has issues. So if it is social media, they're going to be monitoring who is speaking to, who is generating which content. If it is cameras here, they're going to see who drives to where. You saw police, when the campaign started, the first thing they brought in, see Kyagulanyi here, they are blocking roads. As if that was such a life-threatening thing that the whole country, because for them that's the focus.
The chances of surveillance being undertaken at any time as the state may wish are very high, especially when it is also being done and inadequate legal frameworks that do not provide adequately safeguards.
It is unlawful for the state to basically become a big brother, monitoring. For example, your car number plates should afford you privacy, because the number plate is supposed to be for accountability in terms of legal and regulatory compliance, and then the basic identification of who owns this kind of stuff like that. It should not be a tool for telling the state where you are, with whom you are, and what you are doing, and how they can where they can get you if they want you. I think that is wrong. It's illegal.
The omnipresence of surveillance in our day-to-day lives, a product of technological advancement, underscores the need for dialogue about human rights such as privacy, freedom of expression, and association, which are potentially endangered due to unchecked and growing surveillance practices, not just in many authoritarian regimes, but across the world.